Welcome to this week's episode of the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up for the week ending January 10th, 2025. In this episode, we dive into some of the most pressing developments in global security and intelligence. First, we explore the Liberal Party of Canada's search for a new leader as Prime Minister Justin Trudeau prepares to step down. With foreign interference threats looming, how secure is Canada's democratic process in choosing its next Prime Minister? Next, we analyze the Biden administration's last-minute diplomatic push with India. What's driving this flurry of activity as the US presidency transitions? From there, we head to Finland, where authorities seized a tanker linked to the sabotage of undersea cables connecting Finland and Estonia. This raises serious concerns about hybrid warfare in the Baltic Sea. We'll also discuss Taiwan's investigation into a Chinese-owned vessel suspected of damaging critical undersea internet infrastructure, along with a sobering report on Canada's escalating terrorism threats. Finally, we turn our attention to a Swiss national's mysterious death in an Iranian prison, Germany's espionage indictments involving China, and rising hate crimes in Australia following geopolitical tensions. With over 25 years of experience in intelligence and law enforcement, Neil Bisson offers expert insights into these crucial stories. The analysis you'll hear today rivals high-level government briefings, keeping you informed on the global threats shaping our world. Let's dive in.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. I'm your host, Neil Bisson. The global security landscape has seen some real shakeups in regards to political changes this week. And this is on top of continued nationalistic actions by governments and disturbing acts of sabotage. 2025 is starting off to be a turbulent time for North America as conflict in Ukraine and Israel continues. Let's take a closer look and analyze how these issues have the far-reaching effects on your life. In our first story, we're looking into the pivotal moment in Canadian politics, the Liberal Party's search for a new leader as Prime Minister Justin Trudeau prepares to step down. How does this leadership selection process work, and what risks does it face in an era of heightened foreign interference concerns? Let's unpack the points. Justin Trudeau's announcement to resign after the Liberal Party selects his successor marks an end of an era in Canadian politics. The process to choose his replacement involves a nationwide competitive mechanism allowing registered Liberals and even non-members, classified as supporters, to vote. This inclusive system, while innovative, raises significant security challenges. From an intelligence perspective, leadership races are prime targets for foreign interference. Past reports from Canada's National Security and Intelligence Committee on Parliamentarians have flagged these processes as highly vulnerable. The Liberal leadership vote will occur against the backdrop of inquiries into alleged meddling by foreign actors like China during federal elections. Such interference could exploit the Liberal Party's relatively open voting rules, which lack safeguards like stringent residency verification or age limits. This openness could inadvertently invite manipulation that might sway the choice of Canada's next Prime Minister. Historically, Canada's approach to regulating political party processes has been lenient. Compared to nations like Australia and the United Kingdom, where interference in leadership race is criminalized, the Liberal Party voting model, introduced during Trudeau's leadership bid in 2013, was heralded as democratic but has now become a point of contention. This situation mirrors broader global trends where foreign actors seek to destabilize democratic institutions by targeting their leadership. For instance, allegations of interference in the UK's Brexit referendum and the US 2016 presidential election demonstrate how vulnerabilities in political processes can have far-reaching consequences. Experts like Dennis Molinaro, a former security analyst, have criticized the Liberal Party's leadership selection mechanism for its susceptibility to foreign influence. He argues for reforms such as raising the voting age and adopting stricter residency requirements, aligning with practices in other major Canadian parties. Nelson Wiseman, a political science professor, points out that this race might shape not only the Liberal Party's future, but also the country's political landscape, with frontrunners like Chrystia Freeland and Mark Carney already in the spotlight. Trudeau's resignation sets the stage for a transformative leadership race within the Liberal Party. However, the process must navigate significant challenges, including the looming threat of foreign interference. As Canadians prepare to welcome a new Prime Minister, ensuring the integrity of the selection process is paramount. If the Liberal Party is truly concerned about how foreign influence can affect our democratic system, they need to look inwards and make the necessary changes to ensure foreign adversaries like China, India, Iran, and Russia don't take advantage of their lax rules to secretly push their own agendas on Canadians. In our next story, we're diving into a major diplomatic development just as the Biden administration wraps up its time in office. In the article entitled "The Biden Administration Pursues Last-Minute Diplomacy with India," we look at the final push by U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan in strengthening the U.S.-India relationship before President Joe Biden's term end. Sullivan's visit to New Delhi and the finalization of critical agreements marks the culmination of U.S.-India cooperation on several key issues, particularly in defense and technology. Sullivan's visit to India, scheduled just 2 weeks before Biden's presidency transitions, highlights U.S. intention to solidify its relationship with India, especially on key initiatives like the U.S.-India Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technology, or ICET. This program has encouraged collaboration in defense, artificial intelligence, and space exploration, which could also help balance China's growing influence. This visit also touched on long-standing diplomatic efforts, including overcoming obstacles in a 2008 civil nuclear agreement, which has long seen as a cornerstone of the U.S.-India partnership. While Sullivan's message emphasizes cooperation and continuity, there's an underlying concern about how the transition of U.S. leadership might impact these strategies and alliances, especially with the expected hardline stance from the incoming Trump administration. The U.S.-India relationship has been pivotal over the past decade, especially countering China's influence. The ICET initiative is significant in this regard, as it is designated to bypass bureaucratic barriers and foster quicker collaboration between the two countries. This diplomatic push echoes past efforts to ensure continuity in international relations despite leadership transitions. For example, the Obama administration worked hard to ensure the Iran nuclear deal survived the Trump presidency, but there was noticeable disruption in its implementation. U.S.-India relationship could follow a similar pattern, as Sullivan himself acknowledges the possibility of future resistance. Sullivan's trip signals the bipartisan nature of U.S.-India ties. Experts agree that India is crucial to the U.S.'s broader strategy in the Indo-Pacific, particularly in countering China's influence. One such expert, speaking on the condition of anonymity, suggested that the U.S. might face greater challenges under the next administration if it doesn't manage the technology and defense collaborations carefully. From an intelligence perspective, ensuring that these collaborations continue is vital, especially in areas like cybersecurity, AI, and defense technologies. These areas not only strengthen bilateral ties, but also serve as critical counters to growing global security threats. Jake Sullivan's final diplomatic trip to India underscores America's focus on maintaining strong U.S.-India ties, particularly in defense and technology. It also points to the challenges both countries might face in ensuring these gains survive the leadership change in Washington. As we look forward, the future of the U.S.-India relationship will largely depend on the ability to overcome bureaucratic hurdles and political resistance, both at home and abroad. For national security and global stability, continued collaboration between North America and India will be essential in the coming years. We now move on to Finland, where we dive into the high-stakes maritime incidents that has raised concerns about sabotage in the Baltic Sea. Finnish authorities have seized a tanker suspected of being involved in cutting undersea cables that connect Finland to Estonia. The vessel, named the Eagle S, was already under investigation, and new findings have led it to being barred from sailing. This is the subject of today's article entitled, "Finland Bars Tankers Suspected of Cutting Cables from Sailing." The Eagle S, a vessel flagged by the Cook Islands, has already been seized by Finnish authorities on December 28th as part of a criminal investigation into suspected sabotage. The ship's role in severing the undersea cables includes the S-Link 2 electricity cable and 4 telecom cables linking Finland and Estonia. These cables went offline on December 25th, sparking suspicion of intentional damage, possibly linked to the ongoing geopolitical tensions in the region. Upon inspection, Finnish authorities discovered 32 deficiencies aboard the Eagle S, many of which were related to safety management systems. 3 of these deficiencies were so severe that they have led to the vessel being barred from leaving Finland until the repairs are made. These critical issues include problems with fire safety, navigation equipment, and pump room ventilation, all of which pose significant safety risks. The timing of the cable cuts following similar incidences in the Baltic Sea has led experts to speculate that these may be part of Russia's broader strategy of hybrid warfare, using non-traditional methods of disruption to target the West. The Eagle S has been identified as part of Russia's so-called Shadow Fleet, a group of ships suspected of evading sanctions by carrying Russian crude oil and petroleum products. These vessels are often older, poorly maintained, and sometimes operate without proper ownership records or insurance, making them difficult to trace. This incident highlights the growing concerns around the security of undersea cables, which are critical for both communication and energy transmission. The cables that were damaged by the Eagle S are vital connections between the Baltic states, and their disruption is seen as a deliberate act of sabotage. Investigators have found a drag trail along the seabed suggesting that the Eagle S's anchor was dragged across the cables, causing the damage. As tensions between Russia and Western nations continue to escalate, incidences like these are raising alarms about the potential for hybrid warfare attack to be used to target infrastructure. Experts in maritime security have raised concerns about the vulnerability of undersea cables to this kind of attack. They point out that the Baltic Sea is increasingly becoming a strategic zone for Russian hybrid warfare, with both direct and indirect forms of aggression being used. While sabotage like this is difficult to attribute definitively, the circumstantial evidence surrounding the Eagle S, combined with Russia's track record of using non-traditional methods to exert pressure on the West, makes this incident highly suspicious. From an intelligence perspective, the seizure of the Eagle S and the findings of the Finnish authorities offer insight into how authorities are adapting to potential threats in a rapidly changing geopolitical environment. The fact that this tanker has been linked to Russia's shadow fleet, which has been known to operate outside of regular legal insurance frameworks, further complicates the investigation. The Eagle S's seizure and its subsequent ban from sailing highlights the escalating issue of maritime security and potential hybrid warfare tactics. Finland's investigation into the tanker's suspected involvement in the sabotage of undersea cables underscores the growing concerns about the security of critical infrastructure in the Baltic Sea. As this investigation continues, it's likely that further revelations will emerge regarding the role of Russia and its shadow fleet in these incidences. With the growing use of hybrid warfare targeting critical infrastructure like undersea cables, the future of maritime security in this region will be something worth watching. Sticking with the issue of high seas sabotage, in our next story we'll discuss recent investigation by Taiwan's authority into a Chinese-owned vessel suspected of damaging an undersea internet cable. This incident is raising serious concerns about the security of Taiwan's critical infrastructure, particularly in the face of ongoing threats from China. The article we'll explore is entitled Taiwan Investigating Chinese Vessel Over Damage to Undersea Cable. Taiwan's Coast Guard recently detained the vessel Shenzhen 39 on suspicion of dragging its anchor over an international subsea cable running from Taiwan to the United States. The vessel, registered in Cameroon, was temporarily held on Friday while authorities investigate the incident. However, rough water prevented the Coast Guard from boarding the vessel, and it eventually sailed to South Korea. The damaged cable, which is co-owned by several international companies, was part of Taiwan's vital internet infrastructure. Despite the incident, Taiwan's Chunghwa Telecom reported minimum disruption to services, quickly rerouting data through other cables to ensure continued connectivity. The investigation is being treated as a possible act of sabotage, with Taiwan's Coast Guard gathering evidence and referring the case to prosecutors. Authorities have also requested assistance from South Korea's port of Busan, the vessel's next destination. This incident comes amid growing concerns about the vulnerability of undersea cables worldwide, which are crucial for global communications. Taiwan has faced similar incidences in recent years, including the cutting of cables near Matsu Islands in February of 2023, which left local residents without internet for weeks. While no definitive link between Beijing has been established, these repeated disruptions have raised suspicions about deliberate Chinese actions. The Shenzhen 39 is a freighter that, while registered under the flag of Cameroon, is reportedly owned by a Hong Kong company with ties to mainland China. The vessel's crew consists of 7 Chinese nationals. The ship has been operating under multiple flags and transmitting different automatic identification systems, or AIS, raising questions about its intentions and ownership. This incident is part of a broader trend of attacks on undersea cables, including suspected sabotage of cables in the Baltic Sea by Russian-linked vessels. The growing frequency of such events is fueling concerns that these acts may be part of a hybrid warfare strategy aimed at disrupting critical infrastructure and destabilizing nations. Taiwan in particular has been focusing on the security of its undersea cables, recognizing their importance for both national defense and international support. Taiwan's government has been taking steps to bolster its defenses against potential attacks, including reviewing its protection measures for submarine cables. Experts like Raymond Kao of the Taiwan Policy Incentive have pointed out that maintaining reliability and connectivity is crucial for Taiwan's informational operations and narrative control, especially given the geopolitical pressures from China. From an intelligence perspective, this incident underscores the vulnerabilities in critical infrastructure, particularly undersea cables. Given Taiwan's strained relationship with China, the island's reliance on these cables makes it a prime target for disruption. The increasing incidences of damage to cables raise questions about whether these attacks are part of a broader strategy to exert pressure on Taiwan. Experts are also drawing parallels between this event and previous incidences in the Baltic Sea, where similar tactics were used to disrupt undersea cables. The Shenzhen 39's behavior, especially its attempt to avoid detection by turning off its AIS, suggests that it may be trying to operate under the radar, making it harder for authorities to pinpoint the exact role in its disruption. The ongoing threat to undersea cables is a reminder of the growing use of hybrid warfare tactics, where non-traditional methods like cyber attacks and sabotage are employed alongside conventional military strategies. Taiwan's growing interest in satellite communications as an alternative to undersea cables highlights the increasing importance of securing these global connections against both physical and cyber threats. The investigation into Shenzheng's 39 and its suspected involvement in damaging undersea cable highlights the ongoing vulnerabilities faced by Taiwan and other nations that rely heavily on these critical infrastructure systems. As tensions with China continue to rise, incidences like these serve as a reminder of the risk posed by hybrid warfare tactics targeting communications and energy networks. Taiwan's response to these incidences, including enhancing its infrastructure protections, will likely play a key role in securing its positions in the face of ongoing threats. The potential for further disruptions to undersea cables will undoubtedly continue to be a major concern for national security and global connectivity. The sheer volume of attacks on these highly valuable means of communication demonstrate how enemy states like Russia and China are trying to disrupt connectivity between states opposed to their actions. Investigations into these acts of sabotage need to focus on connecting the vessels responsible for the acts to the nation state sponsoring them. NATO and other Western allies will need to start patrolling areas where undersea cables are vulnerable to this type of attack, and if necessary, prevent them from happening by severing the anchors being dragged on the sea bottom from the ships conducting this type of sabotage. For our next story, we head back to Canada as we dive into a report highlighting a sharp rise in terrorist threats across Canada. It reveals alarming trends from growing radicalization to the surge in terrorism charges, all amidst heightened geopolitical tensions. The article we're discussing is entitled "Terrorist Threat to Canada Has Rarely Been Higher," report says. A recent report by Insight Threat Intelligence paints a sobering picture of Canada's terrorist threat landscape. The study found a statistically significant increase in terrorism charges from 2007 to 2024, indicating a troubling rise in terrorist activity. The report attributes much of this increase to religiously motivated groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda, responsible for the majority of the 73 terrorism charges during this period. However, in the last 4 years, a shift has emerged, with ideologically motivated individuals such as misogynistic incel adherents and far-right extremists also committing acts of terrorism. Authorities have disrupted numerous plots in recent years, including a planned bombing of a pro-Israeli rally in Ottawa, a conspiracy to attack Pride Month events in Calgary, and arrests involving minors, such as a Toronto youth charged in December of 2023 on a terrorism peace bond. Additionally, a father-son duo was charged with an attempted attack in Toronto while a Pakistani student was intercepted in Quebec on his way to commit a mass shooting in the U.S. The report also highlighted that on January 1, 2025, the attack in Orleans, where an alleged ISIS supporter killed 14 people in a truck attack. This individual, Shamsuddin Jabbar, had visited Ontario prior to his attack, prompting the RCMP to collaborate with the FBI on this investigation. Despite these troubling incidences, Canada's official terrorism threat level has remained at medium for over a decade. This designation reflects the possibility that an attack could occur. Insight's reports notes a growing involvement of young people and minors in terrorism-related cases. It also underscores the challenges Canada faces in addressing ideologically motivated extremism compared to religiously motivated threats, partly due to preconceived notions and the complexities of identifying these evolving forms of radicalization. The Canadian Security Intelligence Service, or CSIS, and law enforcement agencies have made strides in disrupting terrorist plots. However, the international nature of these threats, as evidenced by Canadians like Abdulrahman El-Bassanawi and Mohammed Khalifa being charged abroad, highlights the importance of intelligence sharing within global allies. From an intelligence perspective, the rise in terrorism-related charges and incidences in Canada signals a diversification of threats. Experts argue that Canada's counter-terrorism efforts must adapt to this new landscape, where motivations range from religiously motivated extremism to far-right ideologies and incel violence. The report also calls for enhanced strategies to address radicalization among youth, given the increasing prominence of minors in terrorism cases. This trend underscores the urgency of preventative measures and early intervention programs to counter terrorism. The findings of this report serve as a wake-up call for Canada's security and intelligence community. With the threat of terrorism rarely higher, it's clear that addressing these challenges will require more robust counter-terrorism measures, including better front-end screening and individuals attempting to access Canada and the means to incarcerate and deport them in a timely and efficient manner. We move on to Australia for a story entitled "Acts of Hate Are on the Rise in Australia, but Naming Them as Proving Fraught" by The Guardian. The article examines the rise of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia in Australia following the 7 October 2023 Hamas attack and Israel's retaliation, highlighting political debates, public safety concerns, and the challenges of defining and addressing hate crimes. The article sheds light on the disturbing rise in hate incidences, with Jewish and Muslim communities being at the brunt of the escalating tensions. These include vandalism, verbal abuse, and even physical assault. The Executive Council of Australian Jewry reported over 2,000 anti-Semitic incidences, while the Islamophobia Registry recorded nearly 1,000 cases since October 2023. Nearly as many as in its first 8 years of operation combined. From an intelligence perspective, such surges in hate crimes often reflect broader societal and geopolitical tensions. Hate incidences can be weaponized by extremist groups, creating fertile ground for radicalization and recruitment. This underscores the importance of identifying and addressing these patterns early to prevent further polarization and violence. The political response has also been polarizing, with debates over the definition of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. These debates, while essential for clarity, risk undermining the public trust and cooperation if they devolve into partisan arguments. This isn't the first time hate crimes have spiked during periods of international conflict. Historically, events such as 9/11 or the Syrian refugee crisis have seen similar surges in xenophobia and targeted violence. However, Australia's diverse population and history of interfaith relations make these recent events particularly concerning. The parallels with past incidences highlight the cyclical nature of such hate surges. For instance, the Christchurch mosque attack of 2019 prompted widespread condemnation, but subsequent reporting shows lingering Islamophobia in Australia. Similarly, anti-Semitic incidences often spike during conflicts involving Israel, such as the 2014 Gaza War. The article cites several experts. Professor Kevin Dunn of Western Sydney University highlighted alarming statistics. 61% of respondents expressed concern if a relative married a Muslim, and 46% said the same about Jewish people. When racist views gain societal acceptance, they embolden individuals to act out. This is why political leaders and media outlets play a crucial role in setting the tone. Balanced reporting and strong anti-racism policies are crucial to counteract these trends. The rise in anti-Semitism and Islamophobia in Australia highlights the ripple effects of international conflicts on domestic societies. Beyond the immediate impact on affected communities, these hate crimes can erode social cohesion and fuel extremist narratives. Meanwhile, intelligence and security agencies must remain vigilant against potential exploitation of these tensions by extremist groups. Our next story brings us to Germany, where we delve into an indictment of 3 individuals accused of spying for China's Ministry of State Security, or the MSS. Their alleged activities spanned years, starting military technology and raising alarms about Chinese espionage operations in Europe. Let's unpack the details of this high-stakes case and its broader implications for global security. German prosecutors have charged 3 German nationals, Ulrich F., Ina F., and Thomas R., with espionage for China. Arrested in April 2023, the trio gathered sensitive military technology information on behalf of China's MSS. Between 2017 and 2024, they are accused of targeting technologies such as boat engines, sonar systems, drone systems, and armored vehicle propulsion systems, all critical for enhancing China's maritime and combat capabilities. Thomas R., believed to be the main point of contact with the MSS, reportedly collaborated with the married couple, Henrik and Ina, who both ran a Dusseldorf-based company. This company allegedly provided access to German scientists and researchers, facilitating collection of sensitive data. The information was then funneled back to China through Thomas R. This case is one of several highlighting the increasing threat posed by Chinese espionage in Europe. Just weeks prior, a U.S. citizen was arrested in Frankfurt for allegedly offering intelligence about the U.S. military to China. These incidences demonstrate a pattern of targeting Western military and technological advancements. German Interior Minister Nancy Fraser has emphasized the growing threat of Chinese espionage in business, industry, and science. This aligns with broader concerns across Europe, where state-backed espionage operations are becoming more sophisticated and persistent. China, as expected, has denied the allegations. At the time of the arrest, the Chinese embassy in Berlin rejected the claims, asserting that such accusations undermine bilateral relations. From an intelligence perspective, this case underscores the importance of safeguarding military and scientific innovations from state-sponsored espionage. The MSS has been actively involved in gathering intelligence to bolster the country's military and technological edge. Germany's swift action reflects growing European resolve to counter foreign interference and protect critical industries. However, the challenge remains significant. Espionage operations like these leverage trusted networks, such as research collaborations, making detection and prevention increasingly difficult. For democratic nations, the stakes are high. Failure to address espionage could erode their technological edge and compromise national security. Cases like this demonstrate the need for vigilance to safeguard sensitive information. The latest espionage case reveals how geopolitical rivalries are playing out in the shadows of innovation and military development. As Germany and its allies confront these threats, expect greater scrutiny for research partnerships and strengthening counterintelligence efforts. For our last story, we head to Iran, where we'll discuss the troubling case of a Swiss national who died in an Iranian prison after being held on espionage charges. This incident raises questions about Iran's treatment of foreign detainees and the broader implications of its contentious use of arrest as a geopolitical tool. Let's dive into the details and examine the larger context surrounding this case. A Swiss citizen, whose identity has not been publicly disclosed, has died while imprisoned on espionage charges in Semnan prison, approximately 180 kilometers east of Tehran. According to Iranian authorities, the detainee allegedly took his own life after asking his cellmate to fetch food. Efforts to revive him were reportedly unsuccessful. The Swiss Federal Department of Foreign Affairs confirmed the death and stated that the embassy in Tehran is working with Iranian authorities to clarify the circumstances. Iran's Judiciary Mizan News reported the incident, with Provincial Justice Department head Mohammad Sajed Akbari providing details. Rights groups have frequently accused Iran of using such arrests as leverage for political or diplomatic concessions, a claim that Iranian government denies. Switzerland holds a unique position in the Iranian affairs, serving as an intermediary for U.S. interest in Iran since 1979 U.S. embassy takeover. This relationship underscores the importance of transparency in cases involving Swiss nationals in Iranian custody. The detainee's death comes amid a broader pattern of contentious detentions. Just this week, Italian journalist Cecilia Sala was released after being held for 3 weeks in Tehran. Sala, who was on a legitimate journalist visa, was accused of violating Iranian laws. Her arrest sparked speculation of a possible connection to Italy's detention of an Iranian businessman accused by the U.S. of involvement in an attack on its military, speculation Iran has denied. These incidences illustrate Iran's frequent use of arrest of foreigners as a tool of its geopolitical strategy, often leading to accusations of hostage diplomacy. This case highlights Iran's ongoing pattern of detaining foreign nationals, a practice that undermines the trust and stability in international relations. For intelligence professionals, this raises concerns about the safety of foreign nationals traveling to high-risk regions and the broader implications for diplomatic engagement. From a geopolitical perspective, Iran's actions reflect its attempts to assert leverage amidst heightened tensions with Western nations. For countries like Switzerland, which play a neutral intermediary role, incidents like this strain diplomatic ties and complicate negotiations on broader issues. For intelligence and national security analysts, this incident underscores the need to monitor Iran's treatment for foreign detainees and its use of such cases as potential bargaining chips in international diplomacy. The death of a Swiss national in Iranian custody adds to a troubling pattern of foreign detentions and raises pressing questions about Iran's approach to international relations. As this case develops, it's a stark reminder of the challenges faced by governments, human rights organizations, and intelligence in navigating such complex situations. Well, that's going to do it for this week's Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. As always, the links to the articles are in the show notes. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen not only to the news relating to global security and intelligence, but the analysis as well. I hope you got something out of it. The world of espionage and intelligence has an effect on your life and the world more than most people realize. But by listening to the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up, I hope you get a better appreciation for how the shadowy world of intelligence affects you. Until next week, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. From the Liberal Party's leadership race and the Biden administration's final diplomatic efforts, to espionage indictments in Germany and undersea sabotage in the Baltic Sea, today's stories reflect the complexity of global security in 2025. If you found today's analysis insightful, please consider liking, sharing, or commenting to help us reach a wider audience. Your support enables us to continue delivering intelligence and insights at a level comparable to classified briefings. For deeper commentary and resources on this week's topics, visit our website, the Global Intelligence Knowledge Network, where Neil Bisson provides unparalleled expertise on the issues shaping our world. As Neil always says, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe. We'll see you next week for more essential analysis of the latest in global intelligence.